beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. So today's video is going to be a little bit different from the regular video I upload on this channel every week. But as you already know, whenever you see my face or my hands, you already know that you're about to learn something new. So on today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you tips to help improve your sewing skills. So these tips I'm going to be sharing with you are very important and very necessary. Whether you're a beginner or a professional, these tips will help you to improve your sewing skills. So let's get right into the video. So first of all, before you start a sewing project, you have to be very focused on the project at hand. You have to put away every form of distraction from your mind and focus on achieving the goal that you set for that particular project. Okay, meaning that before you start a project, you need to have a mental picture or a physical picture of what you want to achieve with that project. If you want to make a dress, for instance, you should know how you want the dress to sit on your body or your client's body. So you have to be very focused and you have to put away all forms of distraction, and you also need to be in the right frame of mind. You need to be in the right mood to be able to achieve goal you want with your project. Okay, so it's very important for you to be focused and be in the right frame of mind before you start any kind of project. This tip is not only for sewing skills. This tip can also help you in your career and in every area of your life. So focus on the project and make sure that you are in the right frame of mind before you even pick up a fabric and your measuring tape to start cutting. Okay, so let's move on. Number 2, you have to make your measuring tape your best friend. It is very important that your measuring tape is your best friend as a fashion designer. You need to always take accurate measurements. You need to always work with your measuring tape. For me, for instance, when I started sewing initially, I would say no, I don't need my measuring tape. I would just take my body measurement, measure when I'm cutting, and then I'll drop the measuring tape when I'm sewing, and I paid dearly for that. So if you want to be a good fashion designer, you need to make your measuring tape your best friend. Measure as you go. Even after cutting, when you are sewing, always have your measuring tape to confirm your measurement, to confirm what you are doing and ensure that you are doing the right thing. So you have to make your measuring tape your best friend. Confirm your fabric. Ensure that the fabric you are using for a particular project will be enough before you start cutting. Ensure that you took the right measurements with your tape before cutting, and ensure that as you are sewing, you are using the right measurement. Also, talking about making your measuring tape your best friend, there's this thing that people don't really know. Measuring tapes are different. Let's say, for instance, you use a particular measuring tape to take measurement. Make sure you use that measuring tape to cut on your fabric, because all measuring tapes are not the same. You might discover that you use a particular measuring tape to measure a client, and then you use another measuring tape to cut on the fabric. You discover that there might be some discrepancies between the two measuring tape, forcing you to either fall short of fabric or not get the accurate measurement. So ensure that you use the same measuring tape you use to take your body measurement to cut on the fabric. Number 3, you have to cut your patterns carefully. If the project you are working on requires you to draft a pattern first before drafting on your fabric, you ensure that you cut your pattern carefully. Okay, sometimes you discover that your pattern paper squeezed or is rumpled. You have to make sure that you iron it first, you press it first before cutting out the patterns. So the 4th tip I have for you is you ensure that you add your seam allowances. Okay, it is very important that you add your seam allowances where necessary. Never forget to add your seam allowances. As a beginner, it is advisable to add from 1.5 to 2 inches seam allowance, because you don't want to be short of fabric. So it's better to have excess fabric that you can trim off than having a less fabric or being short of fabric. You understand what I mean? So it's better you add from 1.5 inches seam allowance to 2 inches seam allowance if you're a beginner. So when you become a professional, you can decide to be using half an inch seam allowance or 1 inch seam allowance. So but ensure that you always add your seam allowance. It's very important. Moving on, you have to press as you go. You don't wait until you are done with your sewing before you start pressing. So make sure you press as you go. Press your neckline, your armhole, everywhere as you're sewing. Press as you go. Pressing makes your work look very professionally finished and clean. So it's very advisable to press as you go. You discover that when you press your fabric as you go, it makes it looks very clean, neat and professionally finished. So that means that once you attach, let's assume you turn a neckline, before you join the front and the back panels together, it's advisable you press the neckline, you press all the seams you already made before you do your final pressing when you are done sewing everything. Also, you would have to finish up your seams properly. Okay, so when you are sewing, you ensure that all your seams are properly finished and you cut out all the threads, excess thread. And if you have an overlocking machine, always ensure that you overlock your sewing. Before you cut, you confirm all your measurements. You ensure that you inserted every measurements correctly before you cut out your fabric. Either you are working with a pattern or directly on the fabric. Before you cut out your fabric or your pattern, you have to ensure, like double check to ensure that you inserted the right measurement in the first place. Okay, so those are my tips for improving your sewing skills. So I'm going to reiterate. Number one, before you start sewing, you have to ensure that you are in a good mood, you are in the mood to sew, you are in the mood to carry on the project, and you need to have a mental picture of what you want to sew. You need to plan your project and know what you want to achieve. You need to have a mental picture or a physical picture of the project you are working on. This helps you have a goal that you want to achieve. Secondly, I mentioned that you have to make your measuring tape your best friend. You should always measure as you go. Cut out your patterns carefully. You don't have to be in a hurry to cut out your patterns, so you have to carefully cut it out. Okay, and thirdly, you have to press as you go. You have to press on every step of the way. Okay, so just make sure you press as you go. Ensure that you finish up your seams properly and cut out every excess thread, all those dangling thread, or know what I'm talking about. So make sure you have a neat and properly finished project. So that is it on this video. I hope you learned something, and thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification so you get notified each time I upload a new video, because I upload new videos on this channel every week, twice a week to be precise. Thank you so much for watching. Until I see you again in my next video. Bye bye.